Welcome to the Man That Can Project podcast. I can't tell you what episode this is going to be because I actually don't know. So there we go. It's an exciting episode, this one, for me. George Harris, welcome. Haven't shaken someone's hand on the podcast for a while. That's a nice little tickle.
Mate.
Fresh ink on your arm.
Fresh ink.
Mate, you were episode 212.
Yeah.
And
on Facebook Live call, I think it was. Yeah.
Mad. But what's most impressive is you and I connected over the internet. We've been online dating for 4 years.
Yeah.
And
how romantic.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You look better in person. You didn't catfish me, thank you. Yeah. That's always a bonus. But you made the trip over to Oz. Yeah. Because there's a lot of guys in the academy that you've met, but you originally started in the breakthrough experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the best courses ever, if I do say so.
No, it was. It was good. It was. I'm still in contact with a lot of the lads now.
Yeah.
Even if they're not in the Strong Men of Value, which they should be.
So if you're listening to this, dudes, and you're not, you should. Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was it like for you coming out here for the first time? Like, all right, so let's. I haven't actually asked you this yet. You're on a plane flying over from the UK. You stopped via Doha, and then you went Doha to Brisbane. Here I am waiting at the airport for you. What was it like when you were walking out of the terminal? What were you thinking?
Do you know, I think it's the last few hours of the flight was, these people going to be the same. You know, you build relationships online. It was my first experience of building relationships online. So, all sorts of anxiety starts kicking in, what are these people going to be like? They've welcomed me into their home, come and stay, come and do this, all the signs are positive, but, are we going to have a Wolf Creek moment when we get there?
We made you watch Wolf Creek before we went camping at Girraween.
That's it.
You've actually stayed up and watched it, which is awesome.
Yeah. So just all worlds of anxiety. And then, I hope you agree, it was just very surreal. Sort of, seeing you in the flesh and hopefully the same for you. It was just like, fuck.
You're definitely taller than I expected.
Yeah.
You don't get to gauge height, and there's so many things online that you don't get to gauge.
Yeah.
I reckon you're funnier in person.
Yeah, no, hopefully. It's hard on a screen,
funny,
right?
Mate. Well funny. Like, you literally fit in like exactly one of the boys.
Yeah.
So, which is always good because, as you said, you have those moments where you're like, I wonder what they're really like.
Yeah.
Like outside of on the call. And I think as well, especially when you're in a program.
Yeah.
And for me, a lot of people try to portray themselves in a certain way.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I would do that in my own life. But then when you get to hang out and you build like a proper mateship with people, you're like, my biggest rule of thumb is I'd have a beer with most people in the academy until you have a beer and you realise that you wish you didn't have a beer with them. But we've had plenty of beers and we've passed the test. It's
been good.
Mate, it's been well good.
It's been so good, yeah. No.
What's been the highlight for you since you've been in Australia?
Oh, going home.
Makes two of us.
No. I actually feel emotional packing this morning. Mate, I don't think it's
bit of James Blunt playing, was it?
Yeah.
Goodbye, my lover.
Exactly that, mate. I think the highlight for me is how welcoming yourself and Amy have been, Liam and Emma, like we've done loads together, and then just all the lads that have gone out their way. People travelling from the bottom of the country up. And,
old Ian. Ripper.
Ian.
We won't talk about how he got us lost.
No,
mountain bike riding.
30k lost. He'll still try and blame the pond, but just how welcoming everyone's been. The place is incredible, but the people have been just insanely welcoming, and I feel like I've just slotted straight in, which is one reason I feel sort of. The most sad about going home is, not the place, but just the people.
Yeah.
And it won't be the last visit or last connection, that's for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we link up again.
Yeah.
Oh, I know we will. But it just depends on when. We're aiming for next year, so.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely secured some lifelong friendships.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so
that's what I remember from my time in France. I didn't go over with any friends.
Yeah.
But the mates that I met, Etienne's one of my closest mates, and we catch up literally nearly at worst every second year.
Yeah.
And it's like, we talk. I was talking to him this morning. We talk every 2 months, maybe shoot messages here and there. But it's like you still feel like, you got those mates that you just fucking always
100%. Yeah.
Feels like you've just put the phone down the last time.
Yeah, and that's 100% what this is like. yeah, I don't feel too bad about going because I know it won't be the last time. It's and lots of exciting stuff going on at home, the business partner, etc. So yeah, stoked to be getting back as well and driving some.
Give us a bit of an update since the last podcast. Obviously, the last podcast we covered things around obviously you joining the military, some childhood stuff that you went through and experienced, and then just when you joined the academy, you were looking for a bit more direction and I guess meaning within your life. You've definitely found that. It obviously hasn't been a linear.
No, it definitely has been a huge up and down and round and but definitely growth year on year, month on month. So at the time I was still pretty quite stagnant then. Just come out of the breakthrough experience when we did our last podcast. Was in a really good motivated position, but maybe wasn't quite as in touch with some of my inner demons as I might have liked to have been.
I think that's. Can we touch on that? I think it's really important to highlight what you just highlighted, whether you did it deliberately or not. Motivated position.
Yeah.
Whenever you attend, from my experience, you might listen to a podcast, you might see someone who has a car that you like or the physique that you like walk past. Whatever it is, it creates emotion. And generally that's motivation to go, I'm gonna now start going to the gym this many times, I'm gonna start whatever. And that wears off pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
Because 100%. Most of us don't have the habits, the goals, the plan, the accountabilities, or even the skill sets to achieve that. So I think it's very important for people to realize that, regardless of what you do, and I'm a big advocate for getting in immersive experiences because it does prop your motivation.
Yeah.
But be mindful that you need to fucking back it up after.
100%. Yeah. And one thing that I found is I was very motivated back then. I was driving my career and working 2 businesses, both within construction. I was motivated for sort of assets and materialism. Unfortunately, my role models in my childhood were good, were stable, but Dad was very materialistic and Mum was very career driven.
Yep.
So they were my 2 pillars that I gauged all of my success on, which, some would say that's not bad, right? Was very successful in that in the last couple of years, until start of last year. It ended with a breakdown of mine and Lauren's relationship. We were meant to be getting married in August last year. I don't find it too hard to talk about now because it's been like the best thing for us. We ended up cancelling the wedding and separating. And
you never actually sent me a cancellation invite. We'd have
flights
booked and
I know, but I didn't want you to think you were getting the money back. So, sort of drove. Very successful. We had a lovely house. We had, these lovely cars and, everything you could ever want from sort of the external looking in. It's like, oh, how can you be miserable? And actually I learned a lot about myself in that time, certainly through the separation of what was important. And I was able to reflect on certain stuff about what I actually enjoyed about certain aspects. Like for example, having fast cars. Did you enjoy the luxury of the car, or did you enjoy a bit of adrenaline from speed? And for me, I couldn't really give a toss about, what car I drive. Like I drive a Volkswagen Transporter van now, but I also have a very fast bike.
Yep.
Because I love adrenaline and I like going fast. And that's what I learned from that, is that I don't need to spend 100k on a car.
Yep.
Actually, I can do it for 10 grand and have equally or even a better fix in what I need in life.
Did you get to that point through sitting there and
taking
time to think? Or how did you get to that?
So because of my or our success of where we were with the house and all that sort of stuff, and because I only knew how to gauge my success on them items, I blame the relationship for me being miserable, right? Which ultimately led to the decline of the relationship. I did some stuff that I'm not very proud of because I just wanted to sabotage. And I was like, this thing's making me miserable, and etc. So
did you realize it at the time that you were just blaming on the relationship?
No.
Yeah, so it's just hindsight now.
Hindsight, absolute hindsight. Yep. I wish I would have, but equally, so we separated. I then was in this position, and I actually went and purchased another house straight away.
Yep.
And was like basically just going to jump straight back into the life that I had without changing anything other than the fact Lauren wasn't there.
Interesting.
And it was probably, in fact, we had just had the searches back on the property, so I could have completed within 10 days of that. And I sat there and sort of just went, what am I doing? Like, it's been a few months. I'm still really miserable.
Yeah.
I'm still not doing anything I enjoy doing. I'm jumping straight back into heavily financial commitments. And I just thought, and I was feeling stuck. So I started working with a counsellor at that point, and weekly, and still go now, and was like, I'm desperately miserable. I've got all this success. I've dealt with the problem. I got rid of the relationship. This is the problem I had. And I then started looking at it, and the way that I best described myself at that point was that I was in a cage, and I could get my arms outside the cage, but I couldn't physically touch anything I wanted because there was still this parameter that I'd put around myself. So I then had to really start reflecting on what's important, what do I personally want, and ultimately the one thing I wanted in life and still am now striving towards and creating is freedom, and that's freedom of time, mainly because I've never valued or appreciated it, and I feel like it's rushing away. So I've now since then built success in a different manner. Built a successful gym that we opened back in August with my business partner Charlie. That's going incredibly well. That's going to create massive freedom for business and sort of low input to high reward. We've got a travelling plan next year to go and see a lot of the world and learn and see different cultures, which is something I value so much and really appreciate. And then, like, best of all for me, Lauren and I have reconnected as well and are on a great growth path. And funnily enough, similarly to her, she had the same realizations. So she's now quit her job because she was desperately miserable in her job. She's now reflected on what's important. And I think a lot of what we were doing, people looking from the outside in, and the best way I could put it is we were living to a societal norm, right? So there's in life all this external expectation, right? Whether it's from parents, whether it's from friends, whether it's from social media, whatever it's from, it builds a perspective that we should look at. And it's utter shit. is my opinion on it.
I think, sorry, just inside that construct, one of the things that I think you've done really well, which a lot of people avoid, is they're so worried about, for example, you had you were engaged, right, to be married, had the house, you had this life set up in front of you based around the construct of, what we're taught to have and what we're taught to be the next step once we've ticked the next box. But the fact that you pull, what's that game, Jenga? You pull one of the blocks out and the whole thing came crumbling down.
Yeah.
So many people are so afraid to pull a block because whether it's tarnishing their image, they're worried about hurting someone.
Let me put it this way, though. I didn't do that in the right way.
No, fuck no.
And I wish I would have had the balls to.
Yep.
But I didn't. I didn't have the bollocks to, and I sabotaged.
Yep.
And, I mean, the outcome was still good, but
Yeah.
I would be very clear to anybody that I didn't do it in the right way or a respectful way. But I did do it.
Well, I want to go there next on how you do things differently and what you wish you knew at the time because there's going to be a lot of people who are in a very similar position. But going back to it falling apart, we don't take risks because it was a risk, right? Like, I'm sure at some point you thought, am I making the right decision by ending this relationship?
All the time.
Yeah. So there's people thinking about that, but they stay where it's comfortable because life's not that bad. I'm unhappy, but, I'll suck it up for the next 70 years. But because, even though you sabotaged and you went about it the wrong way, it still happened, right?
Yeah.
And now it's shaken you up, it's shaken Elle up, and you've both realized what's truly important to you, and now you're on a much better trajectory. Not saying that that's going to happen for every relationship or everyone's got their own path to walk, but it's now put things into perspective to a point where, hey, a year down the track, much better position.
100%. And also throughout all of this, and I feel like it was my almost final lesson in mainly vulnerability towards a partner. You asked a question then of how have I learned from this? What would I do differently? My prime example of that is one of my reflections in life was, for those who don't know, I had a little boy, Ronnie, who's amazing. He's 10 years old now. But in that, I sacrificed like my whole 20s, you know, when everyone else was out partying, was out doing this and that, which is, I love him to bits, but it's part of what made me feel entrapped growing up, because I had everybody else was doing X, Y, and Z, and I had a lot of demons to do with that, but it wasn't his fault, and I've always been there and supported him and done that. But one of my realizations was I don't want any more children in life. Which is
how did you come to that realization?
Lots of time with counsellors, lots of time. You know, I went through my sexual assault as a child, which made my childhood really miserable. I then look at my son, who's you know, in a joint family relationship, and sort of how hard it is for him and what he goes through, and then personal, or some people call it selfish reasons of, you know, what do I now want from life? And I want travel, I want adventure, and ultimately freedom. And children, as great as they are, they take that away from you. And I've sort of been through that for the last X amount of years, and I wouldn't want to go through that again for another 20 years. And that's, you know, some selfish reasons, some external influences of what's happened in my life, but that's all personal to me, and that's not right or wrong to anyone else, but for me.
Okay, so what would you say to someone on the outside looking in? Okay, so Lauren doesn't have children. Or she's co-parenting, obviously, so forget my terminology. But to someone on the outside looking in who says that's selfish, right? You're not now giving her children.
Yeah, so the conversation we had was the hardest conversation in my life, to sit Lauren down, you know, to sit a lady down who hasn't had children of her own. And there was a lot of people's views that was, you know, how could you do that, etc. And I'm not, like, my point of view on that is, if I did it at my sacrifice and decided to have children because she wanted them, I'm never going to be fully happy and fulfilled in my life, right? So therefore the relationship's not going to work. We haven't been vulnerable, we haven't been honest, we're just doing something for the sake of somebody else, which long term is never going to work, it's never going to hold up. So for me, when I approached Lauren, I had to approach it guilt-free, in a sense of, she has a choice. I've been fully vulnerable, I've been fully upfront with my values, my beliefs, and my needs ultimately, and I've put them across. And, you know, it wasn't a decision that was oh yeah, don't worry about it, I'm going to stay. You know, this was something that, you know, Lauren had to go away and think about. And I can't remember how long it was now, maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And we had a couple of really difficult conversations on it. And one night she just basically said, you know, she was happy to continue, but she wanted us to ensure that we always lived a fully fulfilled life of adventure, of travel, of fun, you know, and didn't make excuses and fall into a stagnant world, you know, which you still could do. And I fully respect her for that. And, you know, I was very open with her and said, you know, I'm having a vasectomy on the 20th of February.
Day before my birthday.
Day before your birthday, yeah, I know. You'll have to get the magic in beforehand.
Fucking hell.
So, like, it's huge for me, but that for me is, you know, loads of people have said, oh, why don't you just be careful? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?
The old pull-out method.
Yeah, you know, it's for me, like, it's not just about that. It's about taking full ownership and control of my life. Right, and Lauren our relationship has, I don't know, that seems to have secured this next level of vulnerability and trust. Right, which is higher than any level we ever had, right? Because
you put your best self forward, right? So many people don't feel valued and don't feel heard because they're behind a facade. They're pretending to be someone they're not, whether it's to fit in with that social construct you said, or to please their partner. Eventually,
it breaks down.
It breaks down. So when you can say, this is who I am, this is what I want, I want the best for you as well, so I'm giving you the option. We continue in this relationship, or we
But you still feel guilt of that. Like for weeks after having this conversation, I was beating myself up. How can you do this to Lauren? Like, how can you put her in this position? And thankfully, I was going to the counsellor every week, and still am, because I know I need it still.
Yep.
Right. I'm working through some stuff still, and there's no shame in that. Like, I'm like fully happy of getting a clearer picture, and these people can't make a decision for you, but they can just highlight what's important to you in life, and what way do you want to go. And my counsellor kept saying to me, you've done what's right for her by being vulnerable and honest. It's now up to her to do what's right for her. If that's staying, that's what's right for her, as long as she's being honest with herself. But I can't make that decision for her.
And so this could actually work on the flip side though as well, right? Like, for example, if Lauren's not being honest with herself, or anyone for that matter, what you've done well is you've put in the work. You've spent time, you've seen a counsellor, you did the breakthrough experience. You've done all of these things though that has helped you build a level of awareness around what you want, and develop the skills to be honest. It's very important for anyone listening as well, that not only for us as individuals to be doing that, but the people that you're wanting to spend a lot of time around. I would hope that they're doing similar work, right? Because your environment and who you spend time around, because the resentment could come back the other way if that person isn't being honest. Do you ever think about that or stress about that?
I do. I don't know if Lauren knows this. I'm sure she does, but there's part of me
she's listening, right?
That I always question, and I suppose I still do a little bit. Is she making the right decision for her? And I sort of carry that, and but Lauren is like the most honest, vulnerable person that I know. Like, I don't think she's ever told even a white lie. Like, she's one of them people that just can't. So I fully trust and believe her, which is all you can do in this situation, right? But it will break down if not. Eventually, that's anybody in life in any circumstance. If we're not honest with our partners or friends or whatever, and we tell these, little white lies, and we've all done it, and I will argue to the death against anyone that says that they haven't. Of, you're meant to be going out for a meal or something with friends. You don't want to go, so I'm not feeling right. I've got a headache. I've got a cold. I don't feel well. Actually, we don't want to go. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry, mate, I just don't want to come to the meal. Why is that in society wrong? Why do people get their backs up when we say, I'm really sorry, I don't want to come? Right, which then forces people into a situation of dishonesty. And I feel that there's a huge, huge issue with that. I think I had it personally. I think I would have got upset if someone said to me, "Oh no, I don't want to come for a beer with you, or don't want to come out with you." I'd sit there and go, "Oh, what's their problem?"
Yeah, well, we take it personally.
Yeah, but actually, we don't know what that person's got going on, or whatever. And
it always highlight, like, even just saying that, I'm thinking, well, what's the lesson in this? If I'm taking it personally that someone doesn't want to hang out with me,
insecurity.
Yeah, insecurity. It's external validation that I'm craving. What do I need to work on?
Yeah, 100%. And this is I think one of the biggest problems in society, which then leads to dishonesty through friends, family, through whatever. And it's something that we all really need to work on, I think. And that, the biggest lesson is external validation. Of, we all feel that we need this, and
it feels nice. Don't get me wrong, getting validated. I love having my ego stroked.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. I actually I came off all social media platforms last August. And from the next 12 weeks from last August were like the hardest of my life, without somebody liking your picture, without somebody thinking that, a new toy you've got is cool, or, whatever. And I learned a lot about external validation in myself, and I was miserable for like 12 weeks of just
and you put yourself in that position.
And I put myself in that position, but at the end of the 12 weeks, like now, I feel like a greater freedom than, I don't need it for my business. Social media is a great business tool for like yourself, like Amy and the bandmates, etc., you couldn't survive without social media, right? But as an individual, for me, and somebody who had issues with external validation, like I would drink and act up to fit into groups. I would take drugs in the past to like be the clown. And
I thought you were about to say I'd take drugs in the park.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Still, how did you know?
Yeah, I saw you down by the tree there. Fucking hell.
And I've always had issues because of what happened in my childhood, like going through sexual assault and then like your parents not knowing, etc. And I became labelled as the naughty child. I was fucking naughty because I was screaming for help, but didn't know how to.
What do you wish happened differently then, like as a young kid? Because, for example, if there's some parents witnessing their kid be the naughty child,
God, we still have issues now in the family with this. Actually, before Christmas, we had an issue, and there's still been no acceptance from my parents of what happened to me, and no responsibility taken. Like, it's something that's not spoken about. It's something that the sort of response that I get is, oh, well, we didn't know. We wouldn't have left you with someone if we didn't think they were safe, which is great. I know that. But there's never been oh my God, we can't imagine how hard that was for you. Is there anything we can do?
Yeah.
We're really fucking sorry.
It must be tough for your parents in that perspective. Obviously, the generation they grow up in, and maybe they don't communicate as well as current generations do and understand things. So there's always,
they don't.
like when you've got the differences, that's where differences in how you would handle something. Obviously, you've had lived experience in this, and you've also done a lot of work on yourself, as we've said. So therefore, someone that you knew went through it, you know how you would handle it and what you would do to make them feel validated and heard and accepted almost. And maybe they're still, do you feel like they do mean well, but they're just sort of stuck in what to do? And they don't necessarily have people around them.
I do. There's a lot of that, I suppose, from being a victim, if you like, that I was. You sit in that victim role in the scenario. Sometimes it's hard to snap out of that. Equally, like that's got to be one of the hardest conversations as a parent to have because of the responsibility that you probably do carry internally. But equally, when I sit there and no effort's gone into it, and not even a conversation's tried and it's fucked up, I'd have more respect for that than I would it just not being spoken about.
So that's coming back then to effort, right?
Like 100%. I don't care if it goes wrong. Like, and the arguments happened pre-Christmas because it was. I find family events incredibly difficult because I was like a ghost as a child and nobody saw me. So I find family events quite hard. There was a couple of Christmas family events and I was just like, look, I don't particularly want to go. And Mum had turned around to me and said, oh, you're just being sensitive about family events again. And I fucking lost my shit. Like, I hadn't lost my shit for years, like, properly. Like, just saw black, let her have it completely, like, left the house, went out, and then wrote her, like, a 5-page letter the next day, like, about sensitivity and what it meant to me. And, like, I spent, like, a day writing it, and in hope of getting her to understand and actually how insensitive calling me sensitive was in this environment, right? So it wasn't like, Mum, you're a,
bitch.
Like this, that, and that. The letter was very much, I'm writing this to help you understand why I struggle with family events and actually what they do to me and how hard they are for me, right? And that will never change. Like, I have massive friendship circles and I love mates. When it gets to family, I get uptight, I get worried, and it is no surprise I went through severe trauma as a child, right?
Do you think it's ever something that you'll make peace with or no?
No, because they can't make peace with it.
Yeah.
So they make it something that it's not and it's just a horrible environment.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. And I feel better, I feel more comfortable in other situations. I'm at peace with what it is now and why it's like that. And why the relationships are disjointed and broken, and I'm at peace with that, and I love my parents and I see them, I spend time with them, but I don't want any more from them relationships than I currently have. right? So that's me taking control of that element.
Yep.
Right. And for years, I wasn't at peace with that. And I wanted more. And I wanted to be a loved little child. Even up to 3, 4, 5 years ago, you know, I was still crying out for help. And I couldn't accept that the relationships are what they are. And they're broken through guilt, through mistrust, through, you know, all of this sort of stuff. And I tried to rebuild. And it was such a drain on my resource that it was making me miserable in other aspects of life.
Yep. So
we have a relationship. I'm thankful for the relationship. I have acceptance of that and where I'm at. And I can't drive for anymore. And something interesting, actually, that I wrote in the letter that I personally found interesting was I didn't want a conversation on the back of my letter because I told them maybe 7 years ago about it. There hasn't been a conversation since, and now I've written this letter of trying to help them understand. Like, for me, any response now would be reactive and not proactive. And to me, that lowers my self-respect if I accept something that's reactive rather than they've taken responsibility and be proactive with it. And I've questioned that decision of writing that because I'm like, you know, am I putting this big wall up? And so it does lend the question of, you know, are you at peace with it? Like, I feel at peace, I feel fine. But that statement to me that I wrote in there signifies otherwise, and it makes me question it. But I suppose I don't have the mental capacity right now with the business, with rebuilding the relationship with Lauren, with rebuilding our life and the direction it's going in. That's not important to me now. At this moment in time. But is it put to bed with that comment?
Who knows?
Who knows, exactly. So
interesting.
It's like interesting to reflect and that's why I really liked writing, you know, because I wanted just to turn up at the house and, you know, sit down at the table and have this conversation. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that without getting angry. Because of the lack of understanding. And naturally, people get their backs up when they know they're in the wrong. As we all do. Like,
no
so
one
if
likes being wrong or called
if someone
out.
challenges us straight away, it's back up. So that's why I decided. I thought, you know, I'll write this long letter, and she's got time then to sit down and read. And I never have this with my dad because my dad's he's old school. He's happy in his life. Communication's really low. It'd be complete wasted energy. I suppose I gave it to Mum because she really tries. She avoids the situation, but she tries to sort of do anything she can. And I can see sometimes that she does so much, and it's out of guilt. And I hate that. Like, I'd rather she just doesn't. Like, so I don't want her to be affected by it anymore. You know, I don't want her to carry it. Like,
to let go of that guilt.
Yeah. So it's hard.
It's complex. It's like a spider web, but that's, I think, learning to navigate your life and also the priorities of where things are, but also understand, like we've spoken about, I guess, standards around how you would handle things based on the experiences, knowledge, skill set that you have versus how other people do. And it's not always going to match up. And we need to, while it, you know, we may disagree and it may make us frustrated, it's like all we can do is accept it is what it is, and we can either give time to it to try and mend it, or we can just carry on with our life. And there's no right or wrong.
No.
It's what you feel is the best for you. And
and it may resurface.
And if it does, awesome. There's a reason why it's resurfaced. But I think definitely a lot of people can just put so much focus on it, and it consumes
your life. Absolutely.
And you said earlier, time's going so quickly. Choose where to put it.
31, mate. We're only a few weeks apart as well. So.
I'm older than you.
I know, yeah. Cougar.
Wiser. Cougar. Older, wiser.
Yeah.
Grayer.
Grayer, that's for sure.
Flipping hell. It's not good, is it?
Yeah, really happy now with direction of life. And it's been like the toughest last year, but the best last year. You know. Go on.
No,
I was going to say, when you reflect on the last year, right, and people from the outside looking in have cancelled a wedding, sold a family home, sold all our vehicles, like that is normally enough to ruin someone for 5 years, right?
100%.
Right? And then how quick the realizations were. And Lauren would definitely agree. And then the trajectory that we're now on is literally like last year was like the worst year of my life, but the best year of my life, and it was all right. It happened for the right reasons, and in the wrong way, as I said, like with what went down at the start of the year, but just. I sit here now the happiest I've ever been in life.
Did you feel at any point when you were trying to mend things with Lauren, one, obviously you probably thought, fuck, I made a mistake. That's why you're doing it in the first place. But secondly, was there part of you that goes like a stubbornness to the point I need to back the decision I made in the beginning? Or did you just have the ability to go, look, I fucked up. Let's move on. Let's move forward.
Oh, certainly. Like the first 12 weeks, I like avoided contact with her. I'd start arguments if she tried to, even if it was about the house or whatever stuff we needed to talk about. I was like, I wanted this person as far away from me as possible because I wanted to leave her for a reason because she's ruining my life. And, all this stuff which sounds ridiculous, like saying that out loud, but that's truly what I believed. I believed that the relationship was making me miserable, and I believed that it was ruining my life to the point that I couldn't be happy. And it was only when, the house was gone, when all of this stuff, and it was like, or maybe just a little bit before that actually, and like I started, and I was just still so miserable, and I still did nothing with my time other than work. I still, all of this sort of stuff, nothing changed in life other than the fact Lauren wasn't there. And because I had so much anger and blamed her that much, there wasn't like an emptiness that was left because she wasn't there. Because I'd filled that with anger and hate. Right. But then I had a higher level of emptiness in general in life and lack of meaning, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And even though I had more hours to work, so I was working more than ever and earning more than ever, and going to the pub whenever I wanted, and whatever else. Which, like now, if I said to Lauren, "I'm going to the pub on whatever night," there would be no question. It's fine, or might be, can I come?
Fuck off.
Get out. I need some space. No, it's not like that at all. Like, so it was then, maybe 3 months in that I was like, that deep thought and concentration of, I don't want to feel like this. Obviously spoke to loads of the guys on Strong Men of Value Academy, yourself as well, and sort of process of going through and, just finding that sort of honesty in myself and reflection. And there wasn't like a key moment of flick round. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of journaling, a lot of reading, a lot of time with a counsellor. It was
For someone who's feeling like, because, okay, let's contextualize it. Every decision we make has a sacrifice or repercussion, consequence. Ending a relationship, selling a house, quitting a job, repercussions, right? And sometimes it's needed, other times it's not. Going back towards yourself, what do you wish you did differently, or what would you encourage yourself to do prior to making such a radical decision?
For anyone else, just be so sure of what you want in life and be honest. And we might not always know what we want in life, long term or whatever, but we should know, or we should be able to connect with ourselves internally to know what's important value-wise. So we might not know where we're going to live, or what holidays we're going to go on, or what job we might want for the rest of our life. But if we can know what we want value-wise, and then for certain aspects of life, I know that I want freedom. I wouldn't say that's a value. That's something that I want. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go and see friends whenever I want. Fly over to Oz. Whatever. So I started on my values, and then I started on freedom. And I wish that I would have spent more time on that in the relationship. Because all of this wouldn't have needed to happen. Even down to values in regards to the wedding. Like, I was getting raging internally, but not communicating to Lauren, because I would have been happy getting married on a beach with her and spending a couple of grand. I would have been happy, right? It's about me and her. We were up to 50, 60,000 English. And you sit there and you're like, well, that's the next 5 years of travel blown. You sit there all this, but I didn't communicate that. I just sat there getting pissed off and angry at her. Right? She didn't know. And it turns out, when we eventually spoke about this, she didn't want half this stuff. like because she couldn't communicate that.
She would have been Bridezilla.
Yeah, mate. Well, but there's there's this expectation, like it was, Lauren and George are like party people, and we love having a good time, whatever. So we built the wedding, both of us, around external expectation.
Naughty,
and just that communication. So back to the question, because we went off on a tangent then, but be honest with yourself overall. Be vulnerable in the relationship to the point where you can be like bluntly honest. Like if I can tell my partner that I'm getting a vasectomy when I know that she's wanted kids for most of her life, I'm pretty sure anyone can have any difficult conversation. I don't think conversations get much harder than that. So just be honest with yourself, firstly. Like, don't have more kids if you don't want more kids. Like, the amount of guys I know that, the missus wanted a second or third kid, so I just did it. It's like, well, what did you want? No, I was happy with one. Right. Did you ever tell her that? No. Well, that's what she wanted, so that's what I'm going to do. And it's like, okay, like, fine. Yeah. But you're eventually going to be miserable because you're sacrificing something that you want or don't want for that decision. So just vulnerability in relationship.
Do you think it's important to have a little bit of compromise there as well?
100%. Yeah. But I don't see, like for me, I can't compromise on more children.
No, so, there's a difference in responsibility with 100%.
There's, of course, if you're planning stuff or planning a trip or, something in life of, maybe you want to go somewhere, your partner wants to go somewhere else or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'll come there if you come there with me, or whatever. Yeah, great. But there's some lifelong decisions that will affect your life for the rest of it. Yep. Why would we compromise on that? Yep. Right. I mean, I asked that. Well, I sit there now, and I'm sure, but I was going to. Right. So I was sat in a position where I knew Lauren wanted 2 or 3 kids at one point, and all of this, and I was just going along for the ride. Yep. I was just like, it'll be all right. We've got a nice house, we've got money, and we'll have some kids. And
that's a tough one, hey?
I sounded very unexcited then, but that's how I felt in myself. Yep. At that point, and it was just like. Oh, well, it's what she wants.
Do you feel, once again, do you ever think about 20 years down the track regretting not having another kid?
No.
That's good.
No, I have no regret. I've spent a lot of time with this, and I think I've spent probably 10 years on this.
Yeah, well, yeah, Ronnie's
probably. 10. But without knowing, like the whole time, like building up of, taking X away from your life and Y away from your life. And I don't feel at any point, because I know that I have the tools and the ability to live my life to the fullest. Yep. Right. And selfishly, I already have a son. Yep. Right. Selfishly. So it makes it easier. Yep. Right. But I also have like an uncle in the family who's 64. He had a vasectomy at 18.
Yeah, right.
He was literally like, and he lives a great life. He lives out in Canada. They travel 6 months a year, at 64, and he's done great for himself. He's got a wife who didn't want any kids. It took him a long time to find her. I think he was single until his late 30s, and then found someone with equal values who didn't want children, who loved travel, who I feel like I've got that now in Lauren. I don't need to wait that long, so I feel spoiled in a way, but. We must make decisions that are right for us so that we don't live in any regret. Mm-hmm. And if I felt like I was going to have any regret at all, I wouldn't be doing it. Yep. Because it's a big decision.
Yeah, right? 100%.
So, no regret at all, like not even 1%.
Love it.
And
weapon.
People ask that all the time.
Well, it's definitely something to think about, because Amy and I, or probably more so me, it's like there's days where I'm like, I don't want kids. And then there's other days where I'm like, I would want a kid. Yeah, but then I've fluctuated, and then, to be fair, I haven't actually given it a huge amount of thought. It's just like when there's a kid screaming next to me, I'm like, fuck that.
like the ferry ride back the other day.
Yes, I was just like, my nuts shrunk up inside me, and we're like, you don't need me.
Yeah. What Moreton Island, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we were on the ferry back from Moreton Island, and we must have got the kids class ferry, because it was there must have been 50 kids in a small space, running around screaming, crying, and the 5 of us sat there with our heads down.
It felt like hell on earth, didn't it? I was just like, flipping out.
But equally, they bring so much joy.
No, exactly.
Right? And I'd never tell someone don't have a kid, it will ruin your life. It doesn't ruin your life. It changes your life.
Yep. And you adapt.
If you are ready for that change and you're happy with that change, kids are amazing. Kids are great.
Yep.
But it's not something personally I don't want to pursue anymore.
Yep.
I'd never ever say to somebody, don't have children. Why are you doing that? It's my opinion and my choice what I'm doing.
Yep.
But there's loads of nice benefits to having children, and definitely not like an advocate for to stop breeding.
You fucking psychopath, George. What are you doing? Let's take a bit of a sidestep.
Yeah.
How has it been being a international member of our academy? Because obviously Brisbane in itself is that's where I live.
Yep.
It's a thick community, and I always put out come train with me, or we do a lot of in-person stuff, but pretty much 95% of it is based online.
Yep.
So what's it been like for you in the academy?
Absolutely awesome, but I don't. I want to, and it's making me actually want to drive the UK scene a little bit more.
Yeah.
And definitely hook some mates up, because it's that I feel the mateship. I feel all of the connections with the lads.
Yep.
We have the calls every week, the training programs, Circle.
Yep.
What a great platform. And I feel 98% part of the group.
Yep.
And then there's that 2% with the men's huddles.
Yeah.
That I see the post come out and I'm like, fucking bastards. But that's for me to take responsibility of and build, even if it's not with strong mellow value members, even though we've got a couple of guys out in Ireland now who I was literally laying in bed last night thinking, I'm going to shoot them a line. Ireland's like an hour and a half.
I'll throw in the group chat with the lads.
Yeah. And I'm just like, why don't I go to Ireland for 3 days?
Yeah.
Or vice versa. It's becoming now that we're getting members. I mean, I feel like I'm one of the OGs.
You are the OG.
Yeah.
It's like you and Dave McQueen.
Yeah, from the start, mate. And
from the beginning.
I think that's testament in itself of how efficiently and how well it works, even from overseas.
Yeah.
Right, because what's that been? 2 years?
No, more than that.
Well, yeah. March 2020 was it?
Yeah, because we launched the academy straight after, because I guess going full circle from the beginning, immersive experiences are important, but
so it's been 4 years in total with the breakthrough, etc. Yeah, and I've never dropped out. I've never taken a break from it, and it's definitely been the whole reason for my self-awareness and growth over the last 4 years. I wouldn't be in this position I'm in now.
Yep.
I would be unhappily married with children, working a job I don't love.
Yep.
100%. And they're like, I can say that with absolute confidence. I would be doing
that position,
all of that, which is a position which I think a lot of people are in.
Yep. I think a really important thing, once again, I'm highlighting a lot of shit here, but it's like you did the work and you have to do the work, right? The whole point of having access to something, if you want to belong, you need to show up.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who are paying for it, but they don't show up, and it's like, well, no one's going to have you back because no one knows who the fuck you are.
Yeah. 100%.
It's like sitting on the outside of a circle doesn't make you part of the circle.
Yeah. You definitely, you get out what you put in.
Yeah. And
100%. But that's the same as everything, right? Like whether it's reading, like general knowledge, whether it's going to the gym, like, I'm a CrossFit affiliate owner in the UK. Yep. For those who don't know, that's the business I've built on the side for freedom. And we have people that don't turn up, and we message them every 10 days. If they haven't turned up in 10 days, we send them a message, how are you going? What can we do to help? Is everything okay? Beyond that, we can't do that. Like, somebody has to turn up for themselves and train. We program them, we coach them. We're the same with you, same with your program, and it's frustrating seeing people with so much potential that sometimes don't turn up for themselves.
And that's coming back to, I guess, that what the whole theme of this conversation has been is like, you need to be honest with yourself and accept where you're at. You may not be where you want to be. Most of us aren't.
No.
But if you don't accept where you're at, you're not really starting from the right point, right? You're giving yourself a wrong foundation. Can't build anything if you don't have the foundation.
And how many of us lie at where that foundation is?
Yeah,
Right?
mate.
How many of us say, "Oh, we're here," and then we go home at night and we're here?
Yeah, we're down here. It's like I earn $1 million a year when in reality you earn 80.
Yeah.
Big difference. But the things you know when you're $1 million earner as opposed to an 80K earner is completely different. Same with fitness.
Yeah.
You know, some people say they can squat 200.
Yeah.
In fact, they can't. You're going to fucking break your back jumping under the bar, aren't you? So it's very important to be honest. From the community standpoint, it is exciting to start building in different countries because I think having the community in your own region is an important part, and I hope the direction that we're taking, or I know the direction, but I hope the way we do it inspires and encourages people like yourself and various other members to go, hey, I want to start running a huddle here so we can get the blokes together. Because what it is...
we definitely start leading that.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it's, the tools are there to do so. And
exactly right. Like
the growth that people can achieve from this is something I truly believe in and a living example of, I suppose.
Exactly.
So it's definitely, I feel responsibility now to sort of pass that on and carry on. And we get heaps of value and growth out of watching other people grow as well, right?
Well, you're teaching now, right?
Yeah.
It's reaffirming what you think. And when you teach what you learn, you learn so much more about the things that you think you know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That sounded really...
deep.
Yeah, I was like, I felt like I was a philosopher for a moment. Like as it was coming out, I was like,
Lachlan Stuart, philosopher.
2023, peace. Fucking hell. Well, what would be final note? I haven't even thought of a final question, but I'll think about it now. What would be one passing or final bit of advice you would give for someone on the outside looking in who hasn't pulled the trigger yet in regards to joining the Flippin' Academy?
Come in, take responsibility for your life, become open, vulnerable, and just get the best sense of direction for you.
Yep.
Like, and whatever that direction may be.
Yep.
Like, there's nobody here to tell you what's right, what's wrong. It's, put your views out, your opinions out, and then we'll hold you accountable. Like, and accountability's key, right? Without that, we fall off the track. All of us. You at your
Myself
level, me, yeah, exactly. We all do it. If we don't have accountability, there is a point we fall off the wagon.
That's the thing. I literally use the group for everything that you do.
Yeah, 100%.
It fucking works a treat.
It's awesome, mate. And you could be sat in Australia or, anyone that's in here, America, wherever you are in the world, you're welcome in the UK. Like it's a massive growing network.
Yeah, well, I think about the fact,
men,
the fact that being a part of the academy for you coming over to Australia, you literally had like fucking 100 mates here to catch up with.
And it honestly felt, for anyone from the outside, I came in and it was like I've been mates for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like in person for 4 years. There was no sort of awkwardness, there was no anything. It was like, picking up a slice of bread out of one loaf and putting it into another loaf. It's going to fit.
Wow. Yeah, that was good. Metaphor, I like it.
Best thing since sliced bread.
Fucking hell. Mate, it's been a absolute treat. I've even
awesome,
loved having you over here for the last couple of weeks. Today, we're heading to Lone Pine after this, which would be awesome.
Then a gym sesh.
Then a gym sesh.
Gym sesh on holiday, guys.
A final supper.
Yeah, final supper, final steak.
And then we're driving you to the airport. And probably by the time this is live, you'll be back in London.
No, guys. I'm actually another lad from Australia, from the Man That Can, that I haven't met, is in Finland.
Yeah.
And I'm flying to Finland
to meet him,
to go skiing and husky sled riding with another guy I've never met before.
You got to take photos of that. If you don't take photos,
I'll try it.
Just do it.
I've got my GoPro.
Just one selfie in front of the huskies.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Terrible.
That's all I ask of you.
For some context around that, I get in trouble a lot for not taking photos because I live so in the moment that I just forget.
But I've tried to educate George around leaving memories behind for other people.
Yeah,
because when you're 90,
yeah,
you want to be flicking through those photos.
Yeah, I know.
Mate, 100%.
I'll take
we haven't even taken a photo. We've got like 3 photos together. We'll get another one after this.
We'll go to Lone Pine.
Yeah, perfect.
With our chlamydia bear.
You're going to get roasted for saying that. People get really offended by that.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
All right. We'll cut that bit.
And the chlamydia bear was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, fine. All right.
Hooroo.